The alarm did not scream. In Wakanda, panic was inefficient. Instead, the alarm hummed, a deep, resonant thrum that vibrated in the marrow of every citizen, emanating from the Great Mound itself. King T'Challa sat upon the throne in the Golden City, listening to a report from Okoye regarding a minor skirmish with smugglers on the border when the world tilted. It wasn't a physical earthquake, but a metaphysical lurch, as if the planet had skipped a heartbeat. The sunlight streaming through the Vibranium glass windows shifted spectrum, turning from a warm, golden afternoon to a harsher, cooler white. The holographic displays in the room flickered, dissolved into static, and then reformed with jagged, unfamiliar data. "My king," Okoye said, her hand instinctively going to her spear. Her eyes were wide, scanning the perimeter of the room. "The air, it tastes like ash." T'Challa stood, the Black Panther habit rippling over his skin as the nanites engaged in response to his heightened heart rate. "Shuri," he commanded, tapping his Kimoyo beads. "Status." There was a pause filled with the sound of frantic typing and the high-pitched whine of overloaded energy conduits. Then his sister's voice, usually laced with wit and sarcasm, came through trembling with a rare, cold seriousness. "Brother, you need to look at the sky. The stars, the constellations are wrong. The satellite uplinked to the Avengers is dead. The entire global network is gone." "Gone?" "Replaced," Shuri corrected. "I am picking up radio waves, thousands of them. But they are archaic, chaotic, and the geography, brother, the spectral analysis of the atmosphere suggests a 40% increase in pollutants and a distinct chemical signature I have never seen before." "We haven't moved, T'Challa. The universe moved around us." T'Challa walked to the balcony. Below him, the Golden City stood resplendent, a jewel of Afrofuturism. But beyond the holographic camouflage barriers, which were currently shimmering with violent instability, the jungle looked different. The trees were darker, the horizon grayer. "Raise the dome to maximum density," T'Challa ordered, his voice echoing with the authority of the Black Panther. "Lock down the borders. We are no longer home." Vought International Tower, New York City. The panic in the crime analytics department was usually reserved for a Supes going rogue on a live stream or a drop in stock prices. Today it was the panic of the blind suddenly being given sight of a monster. Ashley Barrett was pulling hair out of her head, not metaphorically, but literally tugging at a strand until it snapped. "What do you mean a country appeared?" she shrieked at a technician who looked ready to crawl under his desk. "Countries don't just appear. Did China build an island? Is it Atlantis? If it's the deep's weird fish people, I swear to God." "It's not Atlantis, Ms. Barrett," the technician stammered, pointing at the massive wall of screens. "Thermal signatures just spiked off the charts in East Africa. 1 second, it was rainforest and subsistence farming. The next second, we have energy readings that dwarf the power output of the entire eastern seaboard. And look at the satellite feed." On the main screen, a grainy image from a Vought satellite, hastily retasked, showed a shimmer in the air. Through the distortion, glimpses of impossible spires and hovering vehicles could be seen. The doors to the command center slid open with a smooth hiss. The room went silent. Stan Edgar walked in, his suit impeccable, his expression unreadable. Behind him, looking bored and mildly annoyed, hovered Homelander. "I was in the middle of a photo shoot," Homelander said, picking a piece of lint off his cape. "This better be good. Ashley, your heart rate is annoying me." "Sir?" Edgar said, ignoring Homelander and looking at the screen. "Report." "Unknown energy spike in Africa, Mr. Edgar. Massive technological displacement. It looks like a city. Homelander floated closer to the screen, his blue eyes narrowing. A city? In the middle of nowhere? Who built it? Terrorists? We don't know, Edgar said coolly. But look at the energy reading. It's not nuclear. It's harmonic. I don't care if it's musical theater, Homelander sneered. Is it a threat? Everything is a threat until we sell it, John, Edgar said. He turned to Ashley. Cut the feeds. Kill the internet in that region. Blame it on a solar flare or a terrorist EMP. I don't want the world seeing this until we know what it is. If there is a power out there capable of hiding a city like that, Vought needs to own it or destroy it. I'll handle it, Homelander said, his smile tight and dangerous. He turned toward the balcony. I love a good safari. No, Edgar commanded. The word hung in the air, heavy as lead. Homelander stopped, his jaw clenching. Take the 7, Edgar modified, smoothing his tie. This isn't a drug bust. Take Noir. Take Maeve. Take A-Train. We go in with overwhelming force, but we go in as saviors. We are investigating a meta-human anomaly that threatens global safety. Do not engage unless provoked. If they have tech like that, they might have weapons that can actually hurt you. Homelander laughed, a sound devoid of humor. Hurt me? Stan, you worry too much. He blasted off the balcony, the sonic boom shattering 3 windows. The Wakandan lab. Shuri's hands flew across the Vibranium interfaces. I have hacked their internet, she said, her lip curling in disgust. T'Challa, this place is a nightmare. T'Challa stood beside her, arms crossed. Explain. The year is roughly concurrent, but history is divergent, she said, projecting images into the air. No Stark Industries, no Avengers, no Sokovia Accords. Instead, this. A montage of videos played in the air. A man in a star-spangled cape lasering a crowd of criminals with a reckless grin. A woman in ancient armor breaking a tank. A speedster running through a person, leaving a red mist. They call them Supes, Shuri explained. They are celebrities, managed by a corporation called Vought International. They have merchandise, movies, brand deals. But look at the casualty reports buried in the metadata, the collateral damage. They are reckless, amoral. They are gods without wisdom, T'Challa murmured, and they are ruled by merchants. There is a chemical compound, Shuri continued, pulling up a molecular structure. Compound V. It appears to be a mutagen. It's not natural evolution, brother. It's a drug. They inject babies with it. Okoye, standing guard by the door, spat on the floor. Barbarians. We are surrounded by a world ruled by petulant children with the power of nukes, Shuri summarized. And according to their news networks, which I am currently blocking from our internal servers, they have noticed us. They are sending the 7. The 7, T'Challa tested the name. Their elite guard? Their marketing team with fists, Shuri corrected. General Okoye, T'Challa turned to the head of the Dora Milaje. Mobilize the Hatut Zerazi, activate the Dragonflyer squadrons, but keep them cloaked. I want the border tribe to form the first line of defense. Raise the kinetic barriers. You intend to talk to them? Okoye asked, skepticism heavy in her voice. I intend to see if there is any honor in this world, T'Challa said, pulling his helmet on. The silver eyes of the Black Panther glowed. If they bring war to Wakanda, they will find we are not a marketing demographic. A basement in Flatiron District. Billy Butcher leaned back in his chair, boots up on the table, watching the chaotic news feed on the monitor. Beside him, Huey Campbell was pacing, wringing his hands. It's all over the dark web, Butcher, Huey said, his voice cracking. Satellite photos leaked before Vought scrubbed them. There's a city in Africa, a sci-fi city. It just popped into existence. I see it, Huey, Butcher grunted, taking a swig of warm beer. Ain't it beautiful? Beautiful? It's terrifying. What if it's more Supes? What if it's an alien invasion? Nah, Butcher grinned, a predatory glint in his eyes. Aliens would have the decency to probe you first. This is leverage. Frenchie looked up from his chemistry set in the corner. The energy signature. It is magnificent, Butcher. It is clean. 0-point energy, maybe? If Vought gets this. If Vought gets it, we're right fucked, Butcher finished. But look at the response time. Homelander took off 10 minutes ago. They're scared. Vought is scared. That means whatever is in that jungle, it's big enough to give Stan Edgar a stroke. Mother's Milk walked in, carrying a stack of files. I've got contacts in the CIA buzzing. Rayner is freaking out. She says the U.S. military is at DEFCON2, but Vought has jurisdiction because of the superhuman threat clause. So the Supes go in first, Butcher mused. Like the good little dogs they are. He stood up, grabbing his crowbar. Pack your bags, lads. We're going on a holiday. Africa? Huey squeaked. We can't go to Africa. We don't have the budget. We're nicking a Vought transport, Butcher said, heading for the door. I want a front row seat when Homelander meets something he can't laser in half. The border of Wakanda, the Vought jet, a sleek black stealth craft emblazoned with the 7 logo, screamed across the African sky. Inside, the mood was tense. Homelander stood at the front, staring out the cockpit window. Queen Maeve sat strapped in, nursing a flask. Black Noir was sharpening a knife, silent as the grave. The Deep was trying to look important, and A-Train was vibrating with nervous energy. We're coming up on the coordinates, the pilot announced, his voice trembling slightly. Sir, I'm picking up resistance. Resistance? Homelander asked. The air density. It's like flying through molasses, and the radar is just a solid wall of white noise. Just fly, Homelander snapped. Suddenly the clouds parted. Below them lay the illusion of the jungle, but the Vought sensors saw through the distortion. They saw the golden spires, the magnetic levitation trains, the massive panther statue carved from a black metal that seemed to drink the sunlight. Holy shit, A-Train muttered. That's a lot of gold. It's tech, Maeve whispered, sobering up instantly. Look at the shielding. That's a kinetic barrier. Land, Homelander ordered, right in front of the big gate. The jet descended, kicking up dust on the grassy plains just outside the visible barrier of the city. The ramp lowered, and the 7 stepped out. The heat was oppressive, but the silence was worse. There were no screaming fans, no paparazzi, just the wind in the high grass. And then they appeared. It wasn't a chaotic mob. It was a precise, synchronized reveal. The air shimmered, and a phalanx of warriors materialized. They wore red armor, bald heads shining in the sun, spears tipped with glowing blue energy held steady. The Dora Milaje. Behind them, men in blue cloaks holding up shield blankets stood ready. And in the center, walking alone, was a man in a black suit woven with silver geometry. He wore a helmet shaped like a panther. Homelander floated up, hovering 10 feet off the ground to assert dominance. He flashed his $1 million smile, the one that polled best with the 18 to 34 demographic. Greetings, Homelander shouted, his voice amplified by the quiet. I am Homelander. These are the 7. We represent the United States of America in Vought International. We noticed you, popped up on our radar. We're here to offer assistance and ensure you aren't a threat to the free world. The man in the panther suit did not flinch. He did not look up in awe. He simply pressed a button on the side of his helmet, and the nanites retracted, revealing the stoic face of King T'Challa. "I am King T'Challa of Wakanda," he said, his voice calm, carrying effortlessly without shouting. "We require no assistance, and we are not a threat to the free world. However, we will not tolerate intrusion." Homelander's smile twitched. He wasn't used to people speaking to him with eye contact. Usually they looked at his boots or the sky. "Well, that's not really for you to decide, King," Homelander said, drifting closer to the barrier. "See, you're on a planet protected by us. We need to inspect your facility. Make sure you're not building anything nasty. Just a standard safety check. I'm sure you understand." "This is a sovereign nation," T'Challa replied. "You have no jurisdiction here." "Jurisdiction," Homelander chuckled, looking back at Maeve. "He talks about jurisdiction." He turned back to T'Challa, his eyes beginning to glow with a faint red heat. "Look, buddy, I'm trying to be nice, but I can walk in there, tear that tinfoil suit off you, and inspect the place myself. So drop the shield." Okoye stepped forward, tapping her spear on the ground. "If you take one more step, colonizer, you will not find it as easy as you think." Homelander's ego snapped. "Colonizer?" He didn't move his body. He just fired. Two beams of concentrated heat vision, capable of slicing through aircraft carriers, erupted from his eyes, aimed directly at T'Challa's chest. It happened faster than human thought. The kinetic barrier of Wakanda flared a brilliant violet. The laser beams hit the invisible wall and didn't just stop. They dispersed. The vibranium weave of the dome absorbed the thermal energy, distributing it across the entire grid instantly. The air cracked with thunder, but the shield held. Homelander stopped, his eyes wide. He had never seen his laser stopped cold. Deflected, maybe, but absorbed? T'Challa hadn't flinched. He looked at the shimmering violet wall, then back at Homelander. "Vibranium absorbs kinetic energy and redistributes it," T'Challa explained, as if teaching a physics class to a slow child. "Your anger only makes our defenses stronger." A-Train blurred forward, trying to run around the perimeter to find a weak spot. He moved at Mach 3, a blur of blue. "Shuri," T'Challa said quietly. Inside the lab, Shuri tapped a key. Sonic stabilizers engaged. A low-frequency pulse emitted from the ground. It wasn't loud, but it disrupted the equilibrium of the inner ear. A-Train, mid-sprint, suddenly lost all sense of balance. He tumbled, crashing face-first into the dirt, rolling 100 yards before coming to a groaning stop. The Deep looked at A-Train, then at T'Challa. Guys, I think they're serious." Homelander descended, his boots touching the grass. The red glow in his eyes faded, replaced by a cold, calculating look. He realized he couldn't just bully this. Not yet. "Impressive," Homelander said, dusting off his cape. "Very impressive. You stopped the lasers. Good trick." "It is not a trick," T'Challa said. "It is science. Something you seem to lack." "We'll see," Homelander said. He tapped his earpiece. "Ashley, get me Edgar. Tell him we're going to need the military, and tell him to bring the cameras. We're going to war." T'Challa signaled Okoye. The Dora Milaje stamped their spears in unison, the sound like a thunderclap. "Wakanda forever," they cried. From the tree line, massive mechanical panthers, Wakandan war machines, stepped out, their cannons charging with blue plasma. High above, in a stolen Vought transport hovering in the cloud layer, Billy Butcher watched the thermal feed on a tablet. He lit a cigarette, a wide, bloody grin spreading across his face. "Well, well, well," Butcher whispered. "Looks like the Spice Girls finally met a proper band." The Atlantic Ocean was a gray, churning expanse beneath the wings of the Vought 7's jet. Inside the plush, leather-seated cabin, The atmosphere was thick with a toxic mix of arrogance and anxiety. Homelander sat at the front, staring at a monitor displaying the energy readings from East Africa. The numbers didn't make sense. They defied physics. "It's a glitch," A-Train said, jittering his leg. "Gotta be. No one has energy output like that. Not even Stormfront did." "Shut up," Homelander said, not looking away from the screen. "It's not a glitch. It's a challenge." Queen Maeve swirled a drink in her glass, looking bored. "Stan said to assess, not engage. If this is a sovereign nation, John, we can't just start a war. The PR would be a nightmare." Homelander turned, his smile tight and terrifying. "We're the Seven, Maeve. We don't start wars. We finish them. Besides, who's going to stop us? The UN? They're terrified of me. If these Africans have a toy I want, I'm going to take it." New York City, 57th Street. Thousands of miles away, the sky was gray with smog. T'Challa walked down the crowded sidewalk. The collar of his coat turned up. He was not the king here. He was a ghost. Beside him, Nakia moved with the fluid grace of a war dog, blending perfectly into the frantic rhythm of the city. "This place," Nakia murmured, her eyes darting between the towering advertisements. "It screams. The noise, the lights. It is a society desperate to be distracted." "Distracted from what?" T'Challa asked, scanning the perimeter of Vought Tower. "From the rot," Nakia replied. She nodded toward a massive billboard featuring the Deep holding a can of soda. "They worship these Supes like deities. But look at the people's eyes, T'Challa. There is no hope there. Only fear and consumerism." They stopped across the street from the tower. It was a fortress of glass and steel, a monument to corporate ego. "Shuri," T'Challa whispered, tapping the discreet comms bead behind his ear. "Are we in?" "I'm cycling through their firewalls now," Shuri's voice came through, sounding amused. "Their security is pathetic. It's entirely focused on brute force attacks. They have no defense against a Vibranium-based digital interface. I'm looping the camera feeds. You have a 3-minute window to enter the service dock." "Understood." T'Challa and Nakia moved. They didn't run. They simply ceased to be part of the crowd. They slipped into the alleyway, scaled the 12-foot security fence with effortless, silent leaps, and landed in the loading bay. 2 security guards were smoking by the door. Before they could even widen their eyes, Nakia had struck 2 precise taps to the carotid arteries. They crumpled silently. "Non-lethal," T'Challa noted approvingly. "They are just workers," Nakia said, dragging them into the shadows. "The monsters are upstairs." They moved into the building. T'Challa activated his suit's stealth nanites. The Black Panther habit rippled over his civilian clothes, turning him into a silhouette of darkness. Nakia donned her own stealth gear. "The server room is on the 82nd floor," Shuri directed. "But T'Challa, I'm picking up high concentrations of a unique chemical signature in the sub-basement. It's matching the biological markers we saw on the news feeds of the Supes." "The source of their power?" T'Challa asked. "Perhaps it's worth a detour." "I will go up," Nakia said. "I will get the data on their government connections. You go down, find out what makes them tick." The Wakandan border. The Vought jet touched down on the savannah, kicking up a cloud of red dust. The engines whined down and the ramp lowered. Homelander emerged first, his cape fluttering in the wind. He flashed his $1 million smile, the one that sold action figures and burger meals. Flanking him were Maeve, A-Train, the Deep, and Black Noir, who had rejoined them after his humiliating defeat. Waiting for them was not a cowering village, but a phalanx. The Dora Milaje stood in a perfect line, their red armor gleaming, Vibranium spears grounded. At the center stood Ramonda, the Queen Mother, regal in white robes and a towering headdress. Beside her was Okoye, looking at Homelander as if he were a piece of gum on her boot. Homelander stopped 10 yards away. He looked around, expecting cameras. There were none. "Hello," Homelander announced, his voice projecting easily. "I'm Homelander. This is the Seven. We noticed your little light show. We're here to offer aid and protection." "We require neither," Ramonda said. Her voice was not loud, but it carried the weight of centuries of sovereignty. "You are trespassing on the kingdom of Wakanda. State your business or leave." Homelander's smile faltered for a fraction of a second. "Wakanda? Cute name. Look, lady, I don't think you understand who I am. I can see through that fancy force field of yours. I can hear your heartbeat. You can do nothing," Okoye interrupted, stepping forward. "You are a man wrapped in a flag. You have no authority here." A train laughed nervously. "Yo, did she just diss the flag?" Homelander's eyes narrowed. The red glow of his heat vision began to simmer. "I'm trying to be nice, really, but I don't like being talked down to by people who are technically squatting on American interests." "This is Africa," Ramonda said coldly. "It's whatever I say it is," Homelander snapped. He floated up, hovering 10 feet in the air, looking down on them like an angry god. "Now drop the shield, or I'll melt it down and rain it on your heads." "General," Ramonda said softly. Okoye tapped her spear on the ground. "Wakanda forever." Behind the holographic camouflage, the air shimmered. The illusion dropped. Homelander blinked. The Golden City revealed itself. But it wasn't just buildings. It was the weapons. The dragon flyers rose from the spires, their sonic cannons locking onto the Vought jet. Hundreds of them. On the ground, the border tribe revealed their cloaks were shields, and the farmers leveled energy weapons that hummed with a frequency that made A-Train's teeth hurt. "Whoa," the Deep said, backing up. "That's a lot of tech." "It's a trick," Homelander snarled. "It's all light and mirrors." He fired. Twin beams of concentrated solar energy, hot enough to slice through an aircraft carrier, erupted from his eyes. They struck the Wakandan energy barrier directly in front of Ramonda. In the Vought universe, this would be the end. The target would vaporize. But this was Wakandan engineering. The barrier flared violet. The impact point absorbed the laser fire, distributing the heat across the entire hexagonal grid instantly. The shield hummed loudly, but it did not buckle. Homelander pushed harder, the beams intensifying, his face twisting in rage. "Break! Reflect it!" Okoye ordered into her comms. Shuri, back in the lab, grinned. "With pleasure." The barrier pulsed. A focused beam of sonic energy, amplified by the kinetic charge of Homelander's own attack, shot back out. It hit Homelander in the chest. Boom! The impact created a shockwave that flattened the grass for 100 yards. Homelander was launched backward, tumbling through the air until he smashed into the side of the Vought jet, denting the fuselage. Silence fell over the savannah. Queen Maeve stared at the barrier, her eyes wide. She looked at Homelander, who was pulling himself out of the metal, his suit scorched, his face a mask of pure, unadulterated shock. He wasn't hurt. He was invulnerable after all. But he had been moved. He had been swatted. "You have one warning," Ramonda said, her voice unshaken. "Leave, or the next strike will not be a warning." Homelander stood up, brushing ash off his cape. His chest was heaving. His ego had just taken a hit harder than any physical blow. He looked at the city, really looked at it, and saw something he had never seen before. A threat. "We're leaving," Homelander hissed to his team. "But John..." A-Train started. "Get in the jet!" Homelander screamed, his voice cracking. As the jet lifted off, Homelander stared out the window at the Golden City. He wasn't afraid. He was obsessed. New York, the Flatiron Building basement. Billy Butcher kicked the door open, holding a bottle of cheap whiskey. "Right then, you lot. Wakey, wakey," Butcher barked. Huey Campbell looked up from a pile of old electronics. "Butcher, it's 3 a.m. What is it?" "It's the news, Huey. The news." Butcher slammed a remote on the table, turning on the TV. The screen showed shaky footage from a long-range drone. It showed the Vought jet fleeing. It showed the golden spires of Wakanda. And most importantly, it showed the violet flash of a shield repelling Homelander. "Did you see that?" Butcher pointed a grime-encrusted finger at the screen. "That bloke in the cape just got his arse handed to him by a bunch of Africans with laser spears." Mother's Milk, leaned in, cleaning his glasses. That's impossible. Homelander can't be stopped." "He was stopped," Frenchie said, his eyes glued to the screen. "Look at the energy dispersal. C'est magnifique. It is not kinetic. It is vibrational." "I don't care if it's magic pixie dust," Butcher grinned, a predatory glint in his eyes. "If they can hurt him, they can kill him. And if they can kill him, we need to talk to them." Huey finished, dread filling his stomach. "Oh, God. We're going to Africa, aren't we?" "Pack your bags, lads," Butcher said, taking a swig of whiskey. "We're going on a safari." Vought Tower. Sub-basement. T'Challa moved through the sterile white corridors. The air here was cold and smelled of antiseptic and ozone. He had bypassed 3 layers of biometric security using Shuri's overrides. He found the central laboratory. Rows of glass cylinders lined the walls. Inside them were not people, but fetuses. Some were malformed, some were glowing. T'Challa approached a console. He decrypted the files. Project V, Subject 89. Outcome, failure. Explosive decompression, Subject 90. Outcome, success. Telekinetic potential. "By Bast," T'Challa whispered. "They are manufacturing them." He had thought the Supes were mutants, or perhaps enhanced by an accident like the Hulk or Spider-Man. But this was industrial farming of human beings. They were injecting infants with a volatile chemical, Compound V, hoping 1 in 1,000 would survive and become a product. "Brother," Shuri's voice came in, tight with urgency. "You need to leave. Now." "I am downloading the formula," T'Challa said. "We need proof." "No, T'Challa. My sensors. Someone is coming down the elevator. Someone fast." The elevator doors at the end of the hall dinged. T'Challa didn't have time to hide. He engaged his helmet. The suit formed around him instantly. The doors opened. Standing there was a man in a dark green suit. He didn't look like a soldier. He looked like a statue come to life. Soldier Boy? No, this was someone else. Someone currently on the Vought roster, kept in the basement for special occasions. It was a contingency clone. A younger, rawer version of Homelander, kept in stasis, recently awakened by Stan Edgar due to the Code Black alert. "You're not supposed to be here," the clone said. His voice was flat, robotic. "Neither are these children," T'Challa said, gesturing to the tubes. The clone's eyes glowed red. T'Challa braced himself. The heat vision lashed out. T'Challa crossed his arms, the Vibranium weave absorbing the blast. The suit glowed purple, charging up. "Kinetic redistribution," T'Challa murmured. He launched himself forward, closing the gap in a blur. The clone swung a fist, breaking the sound barrier. T'Challa ducked under the blow, the wind pressure alone cracking the floor tiles. T'Challa struck. A palm thrust to the clone's chest, releasing all the stored energy from the heat vision. K-A-K-O-O-M. The clone flew back, smashing through a wall of glass tubes. Blue liquid and alarms spilled everywhere. "Nakia, exfil, now!" T'Challa commanded. "I am at the rendezvous," she replied. T'Challa sprinted toward the ventilation shaft. He had the data. He knew the secret. Vought wasn't a superhero team. It was a pharmaceutical cartel with a god complex. As he climbed into the night air of New York, T'Challa looked back at the tower. "You have made a grave mistake," he whispered to the city below. "You have built your castles on the suffering of children." He leaped from the building, latching onto the underside of a passing news helicopter, disappearing into the dark. Wakanda, the throne room. T'Challa returned 2 hours later, stepping off the Royal Talon fighter. The council was waiting. He threw a holographic drive onto the table. It projected the images of the lab, the dead infants, the compound V formula. Gas filled the room. "They breed them?" W'Kabi asked, horrified. "To sell them," T'Challa said, removing his helmet. His face was set in stone. "To cities, to the military. It is a business." "And the man who came here, Homelander?" Ramonda asked. "He is their greatest product," T'Challa said, "and he is unstable. He is a child with the power of a nuclear bomb, and no one has ever told him no until today." "He will return," Okoye said grimly, "and he will bring an army." "Let him come!" M'Baku slammed his fist on the table. "We have faced Thanos. We have faced the Outriders. We will not bow to a man in a cape." "We will not just defend," T'Challa said. He looked at Shuri. "Sister, can you analyze this Compound 5? Can you neutralize it?" Shuri scanned the chemical structure floating in the air. Her eyes lit up with the challenge. "It binds to the DNA. It creates a mutagenic energy field. If I can isolate the frequency of that bond, yes, I can create a retrograde virus, something that doesn't kill them, but switches them off." "Do it," T'Challa ordered. "It will take time," Shuri said, "and a lot of power." "You have all of Wakanda's resources," T'Challa said. Suddenly, the proximity alarms blared. "Another ship?" Okoye asked, reaching for her spear. "No," the operator said, confused. "It is a van, a very old van. It is approaching the barrier." On the screen, a battered white van was bumping over the savannah. A man with a beard and a Hawaiian shirt was leaning out the window, waving a white flag made of dirty underwear. "Who is that?" Ramonda asked. T'Challa zoomed in on the image. He saw the desperation in the man's eyes and the burning hatred. "That," T'Challa said, "is the enemy of my enemy." The heat on the savannah was rising, baking the red clay of the borderlands. The battered white van sat idling before the shimmering violet wall of the Wakandan barrier, its engine coughing smoke that looked pitiful against the pristine backdrop of the Golden City. W'Kabi signaled his riders to hold. The sonic spears remained leveled at the windshield. "Exit the vehicle," W'Kabi commanded, his voice amplified by his cloak. "Slowly, hands where we can see them." The driver's door creaked open with a groan of rusted hinges. Billy Butcher stepped out. He was wearing a trench coat despite the heat, a Hawaiian shirt underneath, and a look of utter, unimpressed exhaustion. He held his hands up, but his posture suggested he was doing them a favor. Right. Keep your knickers on, sunshine," Butcher drawled, his thick Cockney accent cutting through the tension. He looked at the rhinos, then at the spears, then up at the giant energy dome. "Flashy, very flashy. Compensating for something, are we?" "Billy, please," Huey Campbell squeaked from the passenger seat, scrambling out with his hands shaking above his head. "Don't antagonize the guys with the laser rhinos." Mother's Milk, Frenchie, and Kimiko followed. They looked like what they were, a ragged group of fugitives stained with grime, oil, and dried blood. "We are here to talk to the bloke in charge," Butcher shouted. "The Cat Man. We saw him on the telly giving Homelander a bloody nose. We figure enemy of my enemy, and all that bollocks. The air shimmered in front of them. The Black Panther materialized, seemingly from nothing, the stealth nanites retracting to reveal T'Challa. He stood tall, regal, flanked by Okoye and Ayo. Butcher whistled. Sneaky. You are William Butcher, T'Challa said. He didn't ask. He stated, former SAS, current fugitive, leader of a terrorist cell known as the Boys. Butcher grinned, a jagged, dangerous expression. Terrorist is a strong word, mate. I prefer unlicensed sanitation worker. I take out the trash. And you think we are trash? Okoye asked, stepping forward, her eyes narrowing. I think anyone who dresses up in spandex and calls themselves a hero is usually a distinct shade of utter karatut, Butcher said pleasantly. But you lot, you ain't Vought. I can smell Vought. Smells like bleach and lies. You smell like ozone. Why have you come? T'Challa asked, his face impassive. To give you a tip, Butcher said. You poked the bear, son. Homelander, he ain't just going to lick his wounds. He's going to come back, and he's going to bring every freak in the Vought catalog with him. You might have fancy walls, but you don't know Supes. They don't fight fair. They don't fight with honor. They fight like cornered rats with nukes in their pockets. T'Challa studied Butcher. He saw the rage burning deep in the man's eyes. It was a familiar rage. The same rage Eric Killmonger had carried. But where Killmonger wanted to burn the world, Butcher just wanted to kill the gods. Let them in, T'Challa ordered. My king, Okoye protested. These men are murderers. They are survivors, T'Challa corrected. And in this world, we need guides. Shuri's laboratory. The boys stood in the center of Shuri's lab, looking around in varying states of awe and confusion. Huey was staring at a magnetic levitation train, zipping silently past the window. Frenchie was vibrating with excitement, looking at the chemical synthesizers. This is incroyable, Frenchie whispered, touching a holographic interface. The molecular stability, it is perfect. Don't touch that, Shuri said, slapping his hand away lightly. She looked at the group with amused curiosity. So you are the ones who kill Supes with crowbars and bombs? We make do, MM said, his voice deep and respectful. He looked at T'Challa. Your Highness, thank you for the hospitality. But Butcher is right. Vought is mobilizing. We have wiretaps on the Sevens Tower. Stan Edgar, the CEO, he's spinning this. He's telling the Pentagon that you're an alien invasion force. He's asking for authorization to use tactical nukes. Let them try, Okoye scoffed. Our shields can withstand orbital bombardment. Can they withstand a psychic attack? Butcher asked, leaning against a table. What about a shrinking soup crawling up your nose and expanding in your brain? What about a virus? T'Challa looked at Butcher. We have obtained the formula for Compound Phi. The room went silent. Butcher's eyes widened. You nicked the recipe. We did more than that, Shuri said, stepping up to the main display. I have analyzed the chemical bonds. Compound V is a mutagen. It rewrites the DNA, utilizing a high-energy isotope that mimics gamma radiation but is far more stable. She waved her hand, and a complex double helix structure appeared in golden light. It is clumsy work, Shuri critiqued. Brute force biology. It forces the body to evolve or die. That is why so many subjects perish. Can you reverse it? Frenchie asked, stepping forward, his goggles reflecting the hologram. We have tried halothane, Novichok. It slows them down, but it does not stop the V. Chemical agents are temporary, Shuri explained. To permanently depower them, we need to sever the link between the isotope and the host's adrenal system. I am developing a retroviral agent, nanites programmed to hunt the compound V molecules and neutralize their energy charge. A cure, Huey breathed. A weapon, Butcher corrected, a cruel smile spreading across his face. You turn them back into regular people, and then he made a chopping motion with his hand. Then they face justice, T'Challa said sharply. We do not execute the defenseless. Butcher laughed, a dry, barking sound. You hold on to those high morals, King. See how long they last when Homelander is laser-eyeing your sister. T'Challa stepped into Butcher's space. The height difference was negligible, but the presence of the Black Panther filled the room. Do not presume to lecture me on loss, Mr. Butcher. I have lost a father to a bomb. I have fought my own cousin to the death. We kill when we must, but we do not become the monsters we fight. Butcher held his gaze for a long moment, then shrugged. Fair play. As long as they lose the powers, I don't care who puts the cuffs on. How long until this cure is ready? The synthesis is difficult, Shuri admitted. The Vibranium nanites need to be calibrated to the specific frequency of this universe's background radiation. I need time. 2 days, perhaps 3. We don't have 3 days, said, checking his phone. The news is already breaking. Vought Tower, the boardroom. Stan Edgar stood at the head of the table. The mood was funereal. Vought stock had dropped 40% in 12 hours. The narrative is slipping, Edgar said calmly. Social media is flooded with images of the Golden City. People are asking questions. Why didn't we know about them? Why did Homelander retreat? Homelander sat at the other end of the table. He was quiet, too quiet. He was picking at the mahogany table with a fingernail, gouging deep grooves into the wood. We need a distraction, Ashley Barrett suggested, her voice shrill. Maybe a new movie trailer? Or a scandal? We could out Maeve again? No, Homelander said softly. He stood up. The room flinched. No more movies, Homelander said. They humiliated me. They made me look weak. He looked at Edgar. You want your stock price back, Stan? Then show the world that Vought is the only thing standing between them and the African alien threat. And how do you propose to do that, John? Edgar asked. Their technology is superior. You saw the shield. They have a shield, Homelander said, his eyes glowing with a manic intensity. But shields run on power. Shields break if you hit them enough times. And I'm not going alone. The 7 aren't enough, Maeve said from the corner. I know, Homelander smiled. That's why I'm authorizing a general call-up. Everyone. The Tech Knight, Love Sausage, the G-Men, every C-list soup with a contract. We tell them Wakanda is full of vibranium. Tell them it's worth billions. Tell them they can keep whatever they loot. You want to send an army of uncontrolled Supes to pillage a sovereign nation? Edgar raised an eyebrow. That is a war crime. It's not a war crime if they're independent contractors, Homelander sneered. And while they keep the Wakandans busy, while they chew on the shields, I'll find a way in, and I'll rip the throat out of that cat. Wakanda, the Great Mound. T'Challa stood with Frenchie and Shuri. They were looking at the raw vibranium ore glowing in the mine. This metal, Frenchie murmured, it absorbs vibration? It absorbs kinetic energy, Shuri corrected. Sound, impact, heat, and it stores it. This is the key, Frenchie said, his mind racing. To disperse the anti-V nanites, we cannot just inject them one by one. We need an aerosol, but aerosol is easily blown away by wind or by speedsters. Unless the aerosol is heavy, Shuri said, catching his train of thought, micro-vibranium particulates. We bond the cure to the dust. When they inhale it, it sinks into the lungs. It enters the bloodstream instantly. Yes, Frenchie snapped his fingers. The dust of death, or, the dust of justice. We work on the name. Suddenly, the kimoyo beads on T'Challa's wrist flashed red. "Brother!" Okoye's voice came through. "We have movement. Massive movement." The plains of Wakanda. It looked like a scene from a nightmare. Across the savannah, dust clouds rose into the sky. Vehicles of all kinds, monster trucks, souped-up sports cars, armored vans, were tearing across the landscape. And running alongside them, flying above them, leaping between them, were hundreds of figures. It was the dregs of the Vought universe, the washouts, the reckless, the violent. There was Popclaw popping her claws. There was Shockwave running at Mach 1. There were members of Payback. There were teenagers from Godolphin University looking for fame. And hovering above them all, arms crossed, was Homelander. "Defensive positions!" T'Challa roared, his helmet snapping shut. The Wakandan army mobilized instantly. The border tribe raised their hard light shields. The Dora Milaje formed a phalanx. The war dogs took to the trees. Butcher stood on the wall, looking through binoculars. "Bloody hell! He emptied the asylum." "There are too many of them," Huey said, panicking. "There's gotta be 300 Supes out there." "Quantity over quality," Okoye said, standing beside them. "They are undisciplined. Look at their formation. They have none." "Doesn't matter if you have formation when you can throw a tank," MM muttered. Homelander's voice boomed across the plains, amplified by the air itself. "Attention, Wakanda. Surrender the terrorist Billy Butcher. Surrender your technology and kneel, or we wipe you off the map." T'Challa stepped to the edge of the barrier. He amplified his own voice. "This is King T'Challa. Turn back. We do not wish to harm you, but we will not yield." Homelander laughed. He pointed forward. "Get him!" The horde attacked. It was chaos. Energy blasts, fireballs, acid spit, and super-strength punches slammed into the Wakandan barrier. The sky turned a kaleidoscope of violent colors. "Hold the shield!" Wakabi shouted. A Supe with the ability to turn into living stones smashed against the barrier. He pounded it once, twice, and then a blast of sonic energy from a Wakandan tower threw him back 300 yards. But there were so many. "They are trying to overload the local capacitors," Shuri said from the lab. "The impact frequency is too high." "Open the dragon's mouth," T'Challa ordered. "Are you sure?" Okoye asked. "Let them in," T'Challa said. "Funnel them. If they want to fight, we will give them a fight on our terms." A section of the barrier dissolved. The Supes roared in triumph, thinking they had broken through. They flooded into the gap, a narrow kill box between two high ridges of rock. "Now!" T'Challa commanded. The Wakandan military unleashed hell. Sonic cannons fired from the ridges. Vibranium spears tipped with neural disruptors rained down. The Supes, used to fighting bank robbers and unarmed civilians, suddenly found themselves facing a technologically superior, disciplined military force. A speedster tried to run up the ridge. Okoye threw her spear. It calculated the trajectory, intercepted the speedster's path, and pinned him to the rock by his shoulder. "Ah!" Butcher watched, a lit cigarette dangling from his mouth. He was grinning like a madman. "Look at that, it's beautiful." Kimiko jumped off the wall. "I go," she signed. "Go have fun, love," Butcher said. Kimiko landed in the fray, ripping the face off a Supe who shot acid. But amidst the chaos, T'Challa saw him. Homelander wasn't entering the funnel. He was hovering high above, watching his own troops get slaughtered with total indifference. He was scanning. "He is looking for the generator," T'Challa realized. "He wants to drop the whole shield." T'Challa activated his comms. "Sam Wilson, I wish you were here." He shook his head. "Shuri, I am going air to air. Prepare the kinetic discharge." "Brother, you cannot fight him in the sky. He is faster than the suit. He is faster, T'Challa agreed, crouching as the suit's kinetic energy stores glowed purple. But he is arrogant. T'Challa leaped. Powered by the suit's stored energy, he rocketed into the sky, soaring upward like a missile. Homelander saw him coming. He smirked. "Here comes the kitty." He fired his heat vision. T'Challa didn't dodge. He spun, his vibranium claws cutting through the air. The suit absorbed the laser heat, the purple glow becoming blinding white. T'Challa collided with Homelander in midair. Crack. The sound was like thunder. T'Challa grabbed Homelander's cape and drove a knee into his stomach. Homelander grunted, actually grunted in pain, as the vibranium discharge hit him point blank. They tumbled out of the sky, crashing through the forest canopy, smashing into the ground of the Warrior Falls arena. Homelander stood up, dusting off his shoulder. He looked annoyed. "Okay, that stung. A little." T'Challa stood opposite him, claws extended. "This is not a photo shoot, John. There is no script here." Homelander's eyes turned red. "I'm going to peel you out of that suit like a banana." Butcher's voice crackled into T'Challa's ear. "Oi, King, keep him busy. We're moving the van. Frenchie's got a prototype of the cure ready. It's unstable, but it might just slow him down." "I will hold him," T'Challa said, staring down the most powerful being in this universe. "Wakanda forever." The water churned, turning to steam where the heat vision struck. T'Challa skidded backward across the wet stones, his heels carving grooves into the rock. His suit was pulsing violently, a frantic, deep violet strobe. He had absorbed enough kinetic energy to level a city block, but releasing it against Homelander was like throwing a pebble at a hurricane. Homelander hovered 10 feet above the water, his cape pristine, his face bored. "Are we done dancing?" Homelander asked, stifling a yawn. "I mean, cool suit. Really, it bounces. But you're just a man inside a can. I can hear your heart beating. It's beating fast." "It beats with purpose," T'Challa gritted out. Homelander's eyes flashed red. "It beats because I allow it to." He flew forward, breaking the sound barrier instantly. T'Challa didn't try to block. Blocking would shatter his bones, vibranium or not. He ducked, sliding under the blow, and raked his claws across Homelander's abdomen. Screech! Sparks flew. The vibranium claws, sharpened to a molecular edge, caught the fabric of Homelander's suit. They tore through the blue mesh. And then they caught skin. It was shallow, a scratch, a paper cut, but a thin line of red welled up on Homelander's stomach. Homelander stopped. He floated back, looking down. He touched the spot, then looked at his finger. Blood. The air in the arena changed. The boredom evaporated, replaced by a silence so heavy it felt like gravity had doubled. "You," Homelander whispered, his voice trembling not with pain, but with an alien emotion. Disbelief. "You made me bleed." "You are not a god, John." T'Challa stood tall, though his ribs were surely bruised. "You are just meat and ego." Homelander began to laugh. It was a high, jagged sound. Okay, playtime is over." The kill box, the breach point. While the king fought the monster, the army fought the mob. The Soupy army was a disorganized mess of flashy costumes and uncoordinated attacks. Against the Dora Milaje, they were falling apart. Okoye spun her spear, ducking under a burst of fire from a hero named Lamplighter. She swept his legs, slammed the blunt end of the spear into his chest, and as he gasped for air, she activated the sonic stunner. He collapsed, foaming at the mouth. "They have no rhythm," Okoye shouted to Ayo. "They fight like children throwing tantrums." "Watch out," Ayo warned. Black noir dropped from the sky. landing silently behind Okoye. He raised a combat knife. Clang! Okoye blocked without looking, the vibranium shaft catching the blade. She turned, locking eyes with the masked assassin. "You are silent," Okoye noted, pushing him back. "But you lack spirit." Noir tilted his head. He unleashed a flurry of blows. Fast, brutal, military precision. Unlike the others, he knew how to fight. He kicked Okoye in the chest, sending her sliding back. He moved to finish her. Suddenly, a massive shape slammed into Noir from the side. Roar! M'Baku, leader of the Jabari, hoisted Black Noir into the air like a rag doll. The thick wood of the Jabari armor absorbed Noir's strikes. "Little shadow man," M'Baku roared. "You fight with knives? We fight with the strength of the great gorilla." M'Baku slammed Noir into the ground, then raised his massive club. "Glory to Hanuman!" He brought the club down. The ground shook. Noir rolled away at the last second, but the shock wave threw him into a rock face. He slumped, dazed. Nearby, the Deep was running toward the river, looking for an advantage. "The water! I need the water!" the Deep yelled. He dove into the river, feeding the falls. "My domain!" He surfaced a moment later, commanding the aquatic life. "Rise! Attack them!" Two small tilapia flopped onto the bank. The Deep stared at them. "Is that it? Where are the hippos? Where are the crocs?" "We moved them upstream," Nakia said, stepping out of the brush, her ring blades glowing. "We knew you were coming. We value our wildlife too much to let you weaponize it." The Deep looked at Nakia, then at the ring blades. "Oh, shit." He tried to scramble back up the bank, but Nakia threw a blade. It curved, wrapping around his legs and binding them with a kinetic tether. He fell face first into the mud, the laboratory van. The white van was careening through the battlefield, dodging energy blasts. Butcher was driving, a cigarette clamped between his teeth. "Hold on to your bits," Butcher yelled, swerving to avoid a Supe who was vomiting acid. In the back, Frenchie and Shuri were working over a pressurized canister. "The mixture is volatile," Frenchie shouted, adjusting a valve. "If we release it too early, the wind shears will disperse it. We need to be at the base of the falls. The updraft will carry it right into Homelander's face." "We have a problem!" Huey screamed from the passenger seat. Fast guy at 3 o'clock!" A train was a blur of blue tearing across the savannah. He wasn't fighting the soldiers. He was beelining for the van. He had seen the tech. He knew that was the target. "I got this," Kimiko signed. She leaped out of the moving van. "Kimiko, no! He's too fast!" Frenchie cried. Kimiko landed in the grass and waited. She couldn't outrun him. She couldn't outfight him. But she could be an obstacle. A train saw her. He sneered. He would run right through her, turn her into red mist like he did to Robin. He accelerated. Whoosh! Just as he was about to impact, a purple energy net sprang up from the ground. It was a trap laid by the war dogs. A-Train saw it too late. He tried to veer, but at Mach 1, turning is difficult. He clipped the edge of the hard light barrier. S-N-A-P. A-Train tumbled, rolling end over end for 300 yards, his legs twisting at unnatural angles. He came to a stop in a cloud of dust, screaming, clutching his shattered femur. Kimiko walked over to him. She looked down, her face impassive. She didn't kill him. She simply kicked his comms unit, crushing it, and ran back toward the van. Warrior falls. The fight was getting ugly. T'Challa's suit was compromised. The nanites couldn't regenerate fast enough to keep up with the heat vision. His left arm was exposed, the skin burned. Homelander was hovering, his eyes glowing with a hateful intensity. "I'm done playing," Homelander said. "I'm going to melt that city, then I'm going to melt your friends, and then..." Screech. The white van smashed through the tree line, launching off a rock and skidding into the shallow water of the arena. The back doors flew open. "Oh, I cut!" Butcher yelled, stepping out with a grenade launcher. Homelander looked at him amused. "Butcher, you brought a grenade launcher to a nuke fight?" "Not a grenade, mate," Butcher grinned. "Inhaler." He fired. The canister arced through the air. Homelander tracked it. He could laser it out of the sky easily. "Pull!" Homelander sneered, his eyes lighting up. "Brother, throw up the shield," Shuri screamed from the van. T'Challa didn't hesitate. He clapped his hands together, releasing every ounce of stored kinetic energy in a localized dome around the canister, just as Homelander fired. The laser hit the kinetic bubble and diffracted. The canister survived the heat, reached the apex of its arc right in front of Homelander's face, and detonated. It wasn't an explosion of fire. It was a cloud of glittering, golden-purple dust. The depowering agent. Homelander was engulfed. He coughed, waving his hand. "What is this? Glitter?" He inhaled. The Vibranium nanites entered his lungs. They bonded to the compound 5 in his blood instantly. They began to vibrate, creating a dissonant frequency that shattered the chemical bonds of the mutagen. On the ground, the effect was immediate for the lesser Supes. Popclaw screamed as her bone claws retracted and didn't come back. Shockwave tripped, his super speed evaporating mid-stride, sending him face-planting at normal human velocity. The mesmerizer clutched his head as his telepathy went silent. The Supy army collapsed. Without their powers, they were just people in costumes facing the most advanced military on Earth. The Dora Milaje moved in, securing them with ease. In the air, Homelander gasped. He felt heavy. Gravity, which he had ignored for decades, suddenly grabbed his ankles. He dropped 5 feet, then caught himself. His vision blurred. The heat in his eyes sputtered like a dying candle. What did you do?" Homelander choked out. He looked at his hands. They were trembling. T'Challa stood up, retracting his helmet. He was bleeding, exhausted, but his eyes were fierce. "We leveled the playing field," T'Challa said. Homelander tried to fly up to escape the dust cloud. He managed to rise, but it was slow, strained. He felt nauseous. He looked down at Butcher, who was reloading. He looked at T'Challa. Fear, genuine, cold fear gripped him. "No," Homelander whispered. "I am the Homelander. I can do whatever I want." He focused on Butcher. He tried to laser him. A thin, sputtery beam of red light shot out. It hit the water and fizzled. It was barely hot enough to boil a tea kettle. Butcher laughed. It was a dark, belly-shaking laugh. "Look at that! He's shooting blanks!" Homelander roared, a sound of pure frustration. He couldn't stay here. He was vulnerable. For the first time in his life, he could die. He turned and fled. He didn't fly out at Mach speed. He flew away like a wounded bird, struggling for altitude, disappearing over the tree line towards where the Vought jet was waiting. "He is escaping!" Okoye shouted, preparing to throw her spear. "Let him go," T'Challa said, holding up a hand. He sank to one knee, the adrenaline fading. "Butcher will not want to let him go," Okoye noted. Indeed, Butcher was sprinting toward the edge of the falls, screaming obscenities at the retreating figure. "Get back here! I'm not done with you!" "Why, brother?" Shuri asked, running to T'Challa's side with a medical scanner. "We had him." "The cure is temporary for him," T'Challa said, grimacing as Shuri treated his burns. "His levels of compound V are too high. The nanites are struggling to neutralize it all. He will recover." "Then we just made him angry," M'Baku grunted, joining them. "We did more than that," T'Challa looked at the sky where the false god had vanished. "We broke the myth. The world just saw him bleed. They saw him run. Vought Tower, 24 hours later." The silence in the conference room was absolute. Homelander sat in the dark at the head of the table. He was shivering. The sickness from the dust had mostly passed, his strength returning, but the psychological wound was festering. He was watching the news on a tablet. CNN, Wakanda repels super attack. Homelander flees. Fox News, is Vought over? Stock plummets to zero. Social media, hashtag Homelander is weak, hashtag Wakanda forever. He crushed the tablet in his hand. Stan Edgar walked in. He didn't look afraid. He looked disappointed. "You have destroyed this company, John," Edgar said quietly. "The military contracts are canceled. The Senate is convening a hearing on the Supes Army fiasco. We are finished." Homelander stood up. His eyes glowed bright red. His power was back. "The company is finished, Stan," Homelander said, his voice void of any humanity. "But I am not." He walked to the window, looking out at New York City. "I tried to be loved," Homelander whispered to his reflection. "I played by the rules. I smiled. I saved the cats from the trees, and they cheered for the people who poisoned me." He turned back to Edgar. "I don't need them to love me anymore," Homelander said. "I don't need Vought. I don't need ratings." "What do you need, John?" Edgar asked. Homelander smiled. It was the smile of a man who had severed his last tie to sanity. "I need them to scream. Wakanda, the lab." The victory celebration was muted. The Wakandans knew this was just the opening battle. Butcher sat on a crate, cleaning his gun. T'Challa approached him. "He will come back," Butcher said without looking up. "And he won't bring an army of losers next time. He'll just bring himself, and he won't stop until this place is ash." "We are working on a permanent solution," Shuri said. "Now that we have tested the nanites, I can refine them, make them stronger. But I need a delivery system that he cannot dodge." "I'll do it," Butcher said. "Do what?" Huey asked, nervous. "I'll take the V," Butcher said, standing up. "Temp V. Whatever. I get powers. I get close. I shove the cure down his throat." "That is suicide," T'Challa said. "The Temp Phi is killing you. We can see the lesions on your brain scans." "I'm already dead, mate," Butcher spat. "I died the day he took Becca." Suddenly, the proximity alarms didn't blare. Instead, a single polite chime rang through the lab. "What is that?" Okoye asked. "A communication request," Shuri said, frowning. "Encryption, level Omega. It's not Vought." "Put it on screen," T'Challa ordered. The holographic display flickered to life. A woman appeared. She was dressed in a suit, but there was something hard in her eyes, something that recognized power. "King T'Challa," the woman said. "My name is Victoria Newman. I'm a congresswoman, and I think we have a mutual problem." "The head popper," Huey whispered, grabbing his neck. "I have intel," Newman continued. "Homelander isn't planning an attack. He's planning an extinction event. He's going to the nuclear silos." T'Challa's eyes widened. "Shuri," T'Challa said, his voice commanding, "how fast can you repair the shields?" 2 hours, she replied. "You have one," T'Challa said. He turned to Butcher. "You want to kill a god? We have to save the world first. The king, the butcher, and the end of the world. North Dakota, Minot Air Force Base." The silo doors were not opened by codes. They were ripped off their hinges like the lid of a sardine can. Homelander floated down into the darkness of the launch tube. The soldiers on the perimeter fired rifles, tank rounds, even a shoulder-mounted rocket. He ignored them all. He was past anger. He was past sanity. He was in a state of euphoric nihilism. He reached the Minuteman III ICBM. He didn't want to launch it. The guidance systems were too slow. He wrapped his arms around the warhead. His biceps bulged, the suit straining. With a primal scream that shattered the concrete walls of the silo, he pulled. Metal shrieked. Fuel lines snapped, spraying toxic propellant that ignited instantly. Through the flames, Homelander rose. He was carrying a nuclear warhead, 350 kilotons of death, over his head like a trophy. He looked into the camera of a terrified news helicopter circling above. "I'm going to bury them." Homelander smiled, his face illuminated by the fire. "And then I'm going to bury the rest of you." He broke the sound barrier, heading east. Wakanda, Shuri's lab. The warning sirens were not pulsing. They were screaming a continuous, flat note of doom. "He is coming," Okoye said, staring at the satellite feed. "And he is bringing the sun with him." "Impact in 10 minutes. Shuri's hands were a blur on her console. "T'Challa, if he detonates that warhead on the barrier, the kinetic overload will be catastrophic. The feedback loop won't just drop the shield, it will liquefy the city." "We cannot stop him in the air," T'Challa said. He was standing on a platform, mechanical arms assembling armor around him. But this wasn't the sleek Panther habit. This was bulkier, heavier. "If we shoot the nuke over the ocean, the fallout kills millions. We have to bring him down, here." "Inside the barrier?" M'Baku roared. "Are you mad?" "The Great Mound," T'Challa said, the faceplate of his heavy armor sliding into place. "Raw vibranium is the only thing on this planet that can absorb that much radiation and thermal energy. We have to lure him into the mine." "He won't go quietly," Butcher said. He was shirtless, veins bulging black and blue. He had injected the Temp 5. His eyes were already glowing with laser energy. In his hand, he held a crowbar, but it was coated in vibranium and etched with sonic dampeners. "I'll make him go," Butcher grinned. "I've got a date with the wanker." "Shuri," T'Challa's voice was deep, synthesized by the heavy suit. "Is the permanent cure ready?" "It is experimental," Shuri said, holding up a spear tip that glowed with a terrifying, unstable purple light. "It is a retroviral payload. One shot. It has to go directly into the heart, through the ribs, through the muscle." "Then we hold him down," T'Challa said. The sky over Wakanda. The sonic boom announced him before he was seen. Homelander appeared like a meteor, the warhead glowing red-hot from air friction. He wasn't slowing down. He was aiming directly for the palace. "Open the barrier!" T'Challa commanded. The hexagonal shield dissolved directly over the Great Mound. Homelander saw the opening. "Too easy!" He dove. As he crossed the threshold, something slammed into him from the side with the force of a freight train. It was Butcher, flying. Butcher tackled Homelander in midair, grappling the nuke. "Miss me, sunshine!" "Get off!" Homelander screamed, trying to shake him. Butcher headbutted him. Crack. The Temp 5 gave Butcher strength comparable to a top-tier Supe, but the vibranium weave pants he borrowed saved his legs from the G-force. They spun wildly, crashing down into the open mouth of the vibranium mine. The Great Mound. The pit. They hit the floor of the mine. The warhead skittered across the glowing blue rock, dented but, miraculously, not detonating yet. Homelander kicked Butcher off, sending him flying into a wall of raw ore. "You filth!" Homelander shrieked. "You dare touch me with your dirty hands?" "I'll do more than touch you." Butcher spat blood, standing up. Homelander's eyes glowed. He unleashed his heat vision. Boom! A figure stepped in front of Butcher. It was T'Challa. The Panther Buster armor stood 8 feet tall, a hulking mass of polished black vibranium with glowing purple veins. He crossed his massive gauntlets. The heat vision struck the armor. Usually this would melt steel, but the vibranium sucked the energy in. The purple veins on the suit turned blinding white. "You cannot burn a king," T'Challa's amplified voice boomed. T'Challa unclenched his fists. The suit released the stored energy in a shockwave of pure force. Ka-thum! Homelander was blasted backward, smashing through a support pillar. The entire mine shook. Dust and glowing blue rocks rained down. Homelander scrambled up, looking at the suit. A robot? You think a robot beats me? He flew at T'Challa. They collided with the sound of tectonic plates shifting. Homelander punched the helmet. T'Challa uppercut him with a kinetic charge fist that sent Homelander soaring into the ceiling. Butcher jumped into the fray, laser eyes blasting. Homelander deflected the lasers, grabbed Butcher by the throat, and slammed him into the ground. "I'm going to pull your head off," Homelander screamed, his thumbs digging into Butcher's windpipe. Thwip! A Vibranium bolus wrapped around Homelander's neck. Okoye and the Dora Milaje dropped from the catwalks, landing in a circle around him. "We are not finished," Okoye yelled. Homelander tore the bolus off. He looked at the nuke lying 10 yards away. The timer on the warhead was damaged, sparking. 0010, 0009. "If I can't have this world," Homelander panted, his face covered in soot and blood, "no one can." He lunged for the nuke. "No!" T'Challa roared. He engaged the thrusters on his suit. He tackled Homelander just as his hand touched the warhead. 00:03. T'Challa pinned Homelander against the glowing wall of the mine. 00:02. "Shuri, the mound!" T'Challa yelled. Shuri from the control room activated the sonic resonance dampers. The entire mine began to hum with a frequency that defied physics. The Vibranium ore woke up. 00:01. The nuke detonated, but it didn't explode outward. The raw vibranium surrounding them, activated by Shuri's sonic frequency, acted as a vacuum. It drank the explosion. The nuclear fire tried to expand, but the metal absorbed the thermal radiation, the gamma rays, the shock wave. The mine glowed blinding white, then settled into a deep, angry purple. Homelander, shielded by T'Challa's body and the absorption effect, blinked. He was alive. The bomb was gone. "What?" Homelander whispered. "How?" "Wakandan science," T'Challa said, his armor smoking, half melted from the proximity. The suit fell apart, the nanites dead. T'Challa stepped out of the wreckage, bruised but standing. Homelander began to laugh, a broken, insane cackle. "You saved me," he wheezed. "You idiots, you saved me. Now I'm going to kill every single one of you." He stood up, his eyes glowing red again. T'Challa was armorless. Butcher was down. The Dora Milaje were scattered. "I am the only god in the sky," Homelander hissed, floating upward. "There is only one god here," a voice echoed. It didn't come from a person. It came from the shadows. The purple energy that the mine had absorbed, it wasn't just sitting there, it was taking shape. The spirits of the ancestral plane, agitated by the dimensional warp and the massive energy intake, manifested. A giant, spectral purple panther formed from the mist of the mine. Homelander looked at it, confused. "A ghost? You're trying to scare me with a magic trick." The spectral panther roared, a sound that shook the soul, and swatted Homelander out of the air. It wasn't physical, it was spiritual pressure. Homelander hit the ground, clutching his head. "Get out of my head! Get out!" "Now!" Butcher yelled. Butcher scrambled up, grabbed the cure spear from Shuri, who had just rappelled down, and tossed it. "Oi! Cut!" Homelander looked up. T'Challa caught the spear in midair. He leaped. It was a tableau of violence. The Black Panther, claws extended, diving toward the fallen Superman. Homelander tried to blast him. T'Challa twisted, taking the laser to the shoulder, and drove the spear downward. Shunk. The vibranium tip punched through the blue suit, through the sternum, and into the heart. Homelander gasped. His eyes went wide. The spear didn't kill him, it activated. The nanites flooded his system. The purple light in his eyes flickered, turned blue, and then extinguished. The flight left him. He dropped to the ground, heavy, just a man. He gasped for air, clutching his chest. He looked at his hands. He tried to laser T'Challa. Nothing happened. He tried to lift a rock. It didn't move. "No," Homelander whispered. "No, no, no." Butcher walked over. He was limping, bleeding, but smiling. He held a rusted, ordinary tire iron. "Well, well," Butcher said, standing over him. "Look at you, just a sack of meat." Homelander looked up, tears streaming down his face. I am the Homelander." "You're nothing," Butcher said. He raised the tire iron. "Butcher, stop," T'Challa said. Butcher froze. "Give me one reason why I shouldn't crack his skull like an egg." "Because death is too easy for him," T'Challa said, looking down at the pathetic figure sobbing in the dust. "He craves attention. He craves power, to live as a nobody, to rot in a cell, forgotten. That is true punishment." Butcher thought about it. He looked at Homelander, who was curled in a fetal position, muttering about his ratings. "Fine," Butcher spat. He kicked Homelander in the ribs, hearing a very human crack. "But I'm keeping his cape." The aftermath. The warp. The victory was short-lived. The ground began to rumble again. The sky turned a sickly shade of green. "T'Challa!" Shuri screamed, looking at her readings. "The energy absorption from the nuke. The Vibranium can't hold it. It's reacting with the dimensional displacement particles. The warp is reopening." "We are going home?" Okoye asked. "We are being pulled back," Shuri confirmed. "The universe is correcting the error." The Golden City began to shimmer. The buildings became translucent. T'Challa looked at Butcher, Huey, and MM. "It seems our time is up," T'Challa said, extending a hand. Butcher shook it, a rare sign of respect. "You lot aren't half bad. For Supes." "We are not Supes," T'Challa smiled. "We are Wakandans." "Do me a favor," Butcher said. "When you get back to your world, tell your Captain America he wears the flag better than this tosser ever did." T'Challa nodded. "I will." The light grew blinding. The sound of the universe tearing filled the air. And then, silence. The boys' universe. The dust settled in East Africa. The Golden City was gone. The jungle was back, empty and silent. Butcher stood alone in the clearing. Beside him, bound in vibranium cuffs that had been left behind, was a weeping, powerless John Gilman, Homelander. The Vought helicopter arrived. Stan Edgar stepped out. He looked at the empty space where Wakanda had been, then at the broken man on the ground. "Mr. Butcher," Edgar said smoothly, "it seems we have a lot to discuss." Butcher lit a cigarette, took a drag, and blew the smoke in Edgar's face. "Discuss this," Butcher grinned. "The boys are back in town." The MCU universe. The air pressure slammed back to normal. The sun was warmer. The bird song was familiar. T'Challa stood on the balcony of the palace. Mount Bashenga was solid beneath his feet. The Avengers ID card in his pocket beeped, a signal from Steve Rogers. "We are back," Okoye breathed, looking at the familiar skyline. "Home." Shuri walked up, holding a data pad. "Brother, the dimensional data, I saved it. The cure, the nanites." "Destroy it," T'Challa said. "Destroy it?" Shuri paused. "But we could use it if we ever face a threat like that again." T'Challa looked at the horizon. He thought of the world they had just left, a world where power was a product and heroes were corporations. We do not need to cure power, Shuri, T'Challa said softly. We need to ensure that those who have it deserve it. He tapped his kimoyo beads. Get me the Avengers, T'Challa said. I have a story to tell them.